The funny thing is the Netflix show Emily in Paris has some truth to it.
So, I feel like this is said a lot, like, oh, it's not urgent. It's not urgent.
The person would be literally walking out with their box of stuff 5 minutes afterward they had an outburst. And in France, it's just, what are you going to do about that?
So I'm in finance. I manage a team of 10 to 12 people throughout the year, and I'm a CPA.
I'm an engineer in biotechnology, so I'm doing research, like R&D, in a lab. It's a private foundation, so it's not really academia, but it's not really a company. It's like in between.
I work in sales and marketing. I am a business developer myself. I've always been in that field for almost 6 years now. Currently, I'm working as a senior business developer at a French company called Brigade. It's in hospitality and healthcare industry, but I work for the clients in UK.
So right now I'm a production coordinator in e-commerce. So I organize photo shoots for 2 big department stores in the US. So after Fashion Week, we shoot all of the samples for their website for the next season.
I was previously an au pair when I first came. Then I got fired. And then I started working for a small French company based in Paris, but that's commercializing products from like the whole country of France and even from other countries. So that's pretty much what I do, commercial. I'm a quality manager for, well, it's a fairly small company in France, but it's an international company. So we have offices all over the world.
I've kind of done a little bit of everything. I've worked mostly in sales, business development. I worked in commercial recruitment. I started my career. I worked in Disneyland too. It was my straight out of university job. Costume and everything. It's a lot of fun. I learned a lot there, actually, about what you represent.
The funny thing is the Netflix show Emily in Paris has some truth to it, even in terms of like their lunch break. It's more hours and time to spend during your lunch here than in Canada. You know, I remember being very strict with my lunch in Canada, sometimes having 30 minutes of lunch, sometimes working at my desk because it's so busy, whereas in Paris, really everyone takes the time to get that full hour to break, to rest, smoking breaks and coffee breaks and all sorts of that. And if you schedule a meeting at 1 p.m., you'll be very looked down upon by the French because no one wants the 1 p.m. meeting.
It's lunchtime.
Exactly. It interferes with their lunchtime and gives them a strict deadline of when to finish lunch by.
And how would you describe the work life compared to Germany?
There's a social aspect of being at work. So first of all, you get into the office and you greet everybody. Some people want to be like kissed on both cheeks. Some people prefer the handshake, and some people don't like to be touched, so it's more distant. But you have to greet everybody in the office. And in Germany, I would say hi to the people I would sit in the office with, but I wouldn't go over to the other floors to say hi to everybody. And there's also a social aspect about getting coffee together. Because then, yeah, you still discuss work while you're having coffee, but getting coffee is a really big part of the work environment.
You know, in Emily in Paris, they're like smoking cigarettes in Savoir, like season 1. And I remember like French people being like, that's not real. And I'm like, it's real. I've seen people smoke in the office, not like at the desk or whatever, but, you know, like maybe after hours, like at the window. That I've definitely seen that a few times. So, yeah, I just feel like it's less measured as long as it gets done. In the US, it's like if you finish all your work, you still have to be there till 6 p.m. Here, if your work is finished for the day, maybe like 4 or 5 p.m., you can go. That would be like now. But my other 2 offices, not so much, I think. But I will say they were very cool. With like vacation days, they're very like lenient with that. So as in the US, it's like you got to do a 2-week request. Like, you know, you have to do it 2 weeks in advance and you know, you can get denied and all that. So
I would say, in terms of my industry, there is a bit more hierarchical culture. The French in my industry is a bit more traditional, whereas you have to pass certain, you know, hierarchies to get to the big boss or to talk to the big boss. Whereas in Toronto, Canada, I can speak up to the director very nonchalantly, ask them for a coffee. Whereas I've heard here, it's not the case as often. So, yeah.
I think it's changing, it's evolving. There's a desire to be more international. There's a desire to be less vertical, more, open office, kumbaya, let's all get along. What's the boss hanging out with the mailroom guy? Doesn't really work out because there's a lot of things are a little bit anchored, and there's a little bit of when you have everybody bringing their dirty laundry to work without any fear of reprisal or being fired, it does make a very interesting dynamic in the office sometimes.
So there is job security for workers. They don't have to fear.
There is France has got some of the best and a lot of worker protection. It's been eroded slightly over time, especially in recent years, but they've been more flexible because they're very strong unions, and there's a lot of protests, and a lot of people tend to agree with having, strong unions and strong work protections. But the impact is on the culture. I mean, some people in French companies have just let it all hang out, And I deal with a lot of some people that I speak to regularly. A friend of mine works in academia, and it's sometimes the descriptions and the kind of behavior you hear is just like you just do too loud. The person would be literally walking out with their box of stuff 5 minutes afterward they had an outburst. And in France, it's just, what are you going to do about that? So,
I would say like the work-life balance is respected in France in a way that there is like a huge separation between your work and your personal life, and I guess that's also why you don't hang out with work colleagues that much to like keep the separation. And then we have like nice lunch break. Depends on the company, but you can kind of start not that too soon and finish not that too late in the day. We work 35 hours per week.
The thing that I enjoy the most with professional life is that French people love to have boundaries, and you don't even feel the need to say it. They already know that there is those boundaries. They will respect you as a worker, They're not going to try to be way too friendly with you. They're not going to try to cross the boundaries. And I'm sorry to compare it with the working situation in Italy, but I finally feel respected at my job. This is what I was looking for so many times. They respect your working hours. You do get vacations. You do get sick days. And I know some people are going to think that's the minimum, but somewhere that is not the minimum. So
I will say it is a lot more lax here. I don't know. Yeah, the lunch breaks are longer. You can get away with that. Where I'm currently working now, like lunch is like an hour and a half. You know what I mean? That's like eating, cleaning up, making your coffee, and then going back. Like in my office now, so I feel like this is said a lot. Like, oh, it's not urgent. It's not urgent. It's not urgent. I feel like I hear that quite a lot. So makes sense why things are a bit slower, maybe. But I have been in an office where it was more like productivity, no talking, which is more, I think, the US way. Very strict. I worked in 3 offices. In the first one, I was staying late all the time. There was a lot of things to do. People weren't very nice. It was not professional at all. I don't know what that was. It was crazy the way people were talking to each other. But the other 2 offices were good. And the second office, we only worked 4 days a week, like every week. So that was really nice.
I would say it does get busy in certain aspects, like in both Canada and Paris. They're both busy in some months, and you have to grind it out and meet deliverables. Though in Paris, there is life after work, more so than Canada, I would say. A lot of people like to go out on Mondays or Tuesdays versus in Canada, it's more like straight from home and relax and do it all over again. I love the whole after work life culture here. It's very, work to live, not live to work than it is in Canada. One thing I learned between Paris and Canada is that in the contract, there is a paragraph of hours and how you're not allowed to have, Kim work after a certain amount of time in Paris. And that hours part of the contract is not prevalent in the Big Four contract in Toronto, for example, which is interesting to me. Shows how they protect the labor affairs here in Paris.
I feel work-life balance is really good in France, especially in Paris. I remember, especially coming from India, I found myself working on weekends where I was told not to do by my managers, and they are very supportive. Obviously, the personalities change from time to time, but the companies here, they value their employees a lot. And obviously, I came across from different experiences of my friends that they were not happy at the work, etc. But at least in my case, I feel fortunate to work with the companies who always cared about each other. Bosses are supportive and they're open. And it's an international environment in itself. So we get to meet and work with people who come from different backgrounds.
Okay, interesting, because sales also is a very competitive field,
Oh, yeah.
right? Okay, but you still don't feel overwhelmed by this work.
I always feel overwhelmed by the targets that get involved into sales. Again, it's the thing. It's my choice to take it as a challenge or feeling overwhelmed about it. So I would take it as a challenge because I signed up for it. So I asked for it, right? On the other hand, in my case, at least, I've always seen my colleagues being supportive to each other. And I personally am team coach or team trainer. Every time when someone new joins in the company, I onboard them, and anytime they have an issue, I'm sort of there for them. That built the sense of leadership in me. So maybe after the next step, I would love to be a team lead or maybe a manager in the same field and train many more sales professionals.
The work-life balance, it's quite interesting because in Germany, everybody would complain about their bad work-life balance, but then they would leave the office at 5 p.m. or maybe 6 p.m. and then afterwards, nobody is working anymore. While over here, everybody's talking about their wonderful work-life balance, and the lunch is at least an hour long and it's so much fun and you exchange with your coworkers. But then they're kind of hiding that some of them are really workaholics. So some of them will stay really long at work to finish everything that they haven't done during the day.
But that's their own decision.
Yeah, they like to talk about how great the work-life balance is, but overall they are still very dedicated. And some of them are really workaholics.
And how would you say is the separation between work life and private life? Do you befriend your coworkers here, or is it more usual, more standard to keep a strict separation there?
I'd say that I think that France has always been very connected to their classmates, but I think there's definitely a connection. I think I'd be curious to look at the data, but the number of couples that meet at the workplace. I think in France it'd be quite high, statistically speaking, probably higher than the country. I could be wrong, but I'd guess that it would be. Work and school and wherever you're forced to be with other people, they do the social thing, as opposed to creating environments or creating events or doing things to meet people. That's not so much their bag in France. Expats, I think, are more into that.
I would say from my experience, it's a bit more separate in Paris. A lot of the colleagues like to separate work from life. That's not to say that I have colleagues that aren't my friends, which I do. I still chill with a couple of my coworkers, but not as much as I did in Paris, in Toronto. I would say in Toronto, the colleagues are a bit closer together and would go for, late night socials and drink and stuff than it is in Paris. So there's more separation in Paris than I would see in Canada.
I like my coworkers. We often hang out after work. So we have, kind of an after work party, an after work apéro, or even just really go to dinner. And in Frankfurt, it was more, even the people that you liked the most in the office, that you shared everything with while you're sitting in the kitchen at lunchtime, once it's 5 p.m., you wouldn't really contact them because then that's their private life and it's very separated. I know a lot about my coworkers that I didn't know in Frankfurt. You have to be open for it and you have to be social, and you can't be one of these people who grumpily get to their desk and just work all the time like a lot of people in Germany would do.
One thing I noticed in Paris is in August, and very similar to other cities in Europe, a lot of people take their summer vacation because they also coincide when the kids have their summer vacation. So a lot of people are off, or you'll see like boulangeries and stores here closed for summer vacation. Whereas in Canada, people still work. Yes, there's vacation, but not a lot of stores will be closed as much as Paris. And in Paris during May, there's a bunch of public holidays, so people use that to their advantage and take more vacation than in Toronto.